Okay, everybody, listen up. Listen up. In this episode, I'm going to do a deep dive into the interview between Ethan Klein and Papa John from the famous Papa John's Pizza. There was a big controversy, a racial controversy with him a couple years back. So we're going to dive into it. In this episode, I actually do a deep dive into the interview, unlike how some episodes I kind of gloss over it. So this one is good if you want to learn about that. I also talk a little bit in the end about overcoming some challenges that I've been dealing with. And yeah, it's good. Good shit. Take a listen. You can follow me on my website, tstuch.com, tstuch.com. Email me, tayradio1@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, tstuch1. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Taylor Space Stuch. Thank you. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about the Ethan Klein interview on the H3H3 podcast. So, one, my voice is a little fucked up right now. I don't know if I have strep throat or some laryngitis thing or whatever. Hopefully I don't have coronavirus. But over the last day or so, I would say about 24 hours, my throat just kind of started bothering me, and it kind of brings me back to the old days of strep throat. Did anybody else have that issue? When I was a kid, I used to get strep throat a lot, and I haven't had it really as an adult since I can remember, but every once in a while I'll have an issue where I think I got strep, but usually it's not. So strep isn't so bad as an adult. I mean, I guess maybe it could be pretty shitty, but anyway, what do I want to talk about? So let's discuss the interview with Papa John, Ethan Klein from H3H3. Actually, Hila, and Ethan had on the Papa John. The Papa John. So, if anyone doesn't know, there was a huge controversy that hit Papa John maybe a year ago. Maybe it was, I think it was for sure, let's see here, Papa John controversy, and we can discuss. So Papa John's CEO steps down following, okay, and that was December 22nd of 2017. Man, where were you December 22nd, 2017? I remember where I was. I was in a kind of a shitty apartment where I am now no longer. Anyway, that was when I first started probably listening to the H3H3 podcast, was maybe the end of 2017. Anyway, the controversy, one of them, or probably the one that he stepped down from, was he was accused of saying the N-word. We all know what this word is, guys. Don't pretend like you don't know. And in the current age of social justice warriors and artificially high racial tensions, we could say, you're not going to get away with saying the N-word. And especially because you're white, you can't say it. Now, ever since I was a kid, it's always been frowned upon. I was born in the early 90s. I can't remember a time where it was okay, but of course I know that it was much more normal back in the day. Now, what was he accused of doing? He was accused of saying the N-word on a conference call, and then he was pretty much just attacked and he left his post. But we didn't really hear we didn't really know everything that was going on, except from that time, I think he kind of had a bit of a media blackout on himself. And then he started making some rounds with some interviews talking about how basically there was almost like a coup that happened. And I'll tell you what, watching some of the clips of his interviews, I definitely thought that was a possibility. So for people that aren't acquainted with reality, when you're a very wealthy person, or you're running a multi $100 million company, and you're wealthy, people are going to want to take you out. And they're going to want to take you out because they want some of that money. They want some of that status. And so the fact that he was saying is like, look, I am being framed, I'm being set up. In the current age of, conspiracies coming to light all the time, and also just looking into his side of the story a little bit. And when I say looking into it, I mean hearing what he had to say, defending himself in the H3 podcast, talking about it a little bit. I definitely did not go hardcore, oh, Papa John's is a horrible person. Now, that is partially my view anyway. So when somebody is accused of saying some racist stuff in the current climate, my default is to not judge them harshly, because the climate is such that it's easy to accuse somebody of that. It's very easy. It's like when the Me Too thing started, it was very, very easy to accuse somebody of being sexist, misogynist, or harassment, even if they really didn't do anything. It ended up becoming a way for people to target people in power that they wanted to get rid of. And with the race situation, it's similar. Yes, there's sexual harassment in the workplace. Yes, there is racism. That being said, people way overuse these, overuse these terms, overuse these situations in order to get what they want. Because in the end, we're people. And even though you might not use these situations to your advantage, there's a lot of unscrupulous people that will use these situations to their advantage. And in the United States, many people love to use the race card, love to use the sexual harassment card to get where they want to go, which is a shame because it really hurts, people who have actually been victims of these things. So the interview was good. It was really good. The way that Papa John came off, one, as friendly, authentic, and sincere. Well, I know that wasn't one, that was three things. But he came off as those three things, in my opinion. One, first off, he was on it's a 2-hour podcast. So yes, you can bullshit your way, but they talked about all kinds of stuff. Ethan kind of started off the interview talking about his love life, because he got divorced from his wife, and he asked him several questions about that definitely, you could tell, made Papa John uncomfortable. But he did not say anything nasty or disparaging about his wife. He was like, look, that's just what we decided to do. He didn't say anything mean about her. It was nice. It was very interesting to see. Throughout the interview, Papa John came to bat for his franchisees. So he was very hesitant to say negative things about Papa John, the company, and in certain respects, he was very, that's the best way to put it. He was hesitant to say certain bad things about the company, and he said, look, I don't want to hurt the franchisees of the company. Like, I don't want to, mess them up, even though the board has done something stupid and crazy. Like, I don't want to screw up the small dudes, the people that are like running, really making the show happen. And so, once again, in my opinion, it goes to his roots and what he actually cares about. See, he's the founder. And as somebody who's worked with a founder of a small business and somebody who does, freelance small business work myself, and also reading and listening to people like Nassim Taleb, then it becomes clear that that's who you want to focus on, are founders. And when there's a founder that's still running a company, that person has real skin in the game, right? They have soul in the game. They want the company to succeed beyond just the fact that they could lose. They want the company to succeed. because it's their baby, it's their child, it's what they started. And that's what he did. And so I truly believe that he wants the best for the company. He started that company, as he mentioned several times. He started that company out of a broom closet, and he really took it to a very high level, very high level. And so, Papa John, I do believe that he is sincere in what he says about the company and what he says about franchise holders and things like that, because he had soul in the game. He still, he still has money in the stock. He still seems very interested in aspects of Papa John's. And the thing is, he doesn't go around trashing the company. He goes on interviews, he talks about the board, he's very specific about who he discusses, and I think that's respectable. I think that's very respectable, and I think people should see that for what it is, that he's a good guy, that he's not a piece of shit. So that's what I think about that. And what did I say? Authentic, yeah, authentic, sincere, and if you should go watch the interview definitely. They also talked about the N word. So before we talk about the N word, I'm gonna go through some sponsors or a sponsor, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, do you want to record your own podcast like me? Well, Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. That's right, mofos. It's easy. Check it out. Okay, we are back. Let's talk about the N-word. So what happened on the N-word controversy? So basically, Papa John described the situation that they were talking about. So first off, he was saying that leading up to that conversation that they're accusing him of using the N-word, that they started planting some seeds. They started trying to get aggressive with him about race and racism. And when he looks back, he says that's when he thinks they started trying to take him out, is whenever they started kind of like they brought him into one or two meetings and they were really pushing the race issue. And that's when he says he looks back, that's when he thinks that this cabal kind of started to take him out of the founder's position, or the whatever his position is on the board. And part of that, they were able to use some things to their advantage. Was he was a big spender. Papa John's was a big ad spender for the NFL. And what he was saying is that back during the kneeling controversy, he came out and talked to Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, and told them, look, you just resolve the situation, fix the situation, because viewership is down and we're spending a lot of money. He was saying that they spent like $45 million in ad spend on the NFL. And viewership during the kneeling controversy went down by 20%, but they were still paying the same amount for ads. So he went to Goodell and he was like, look, fix this issue. Now, guys, this is perfectly reasonable. Even now, he contends that he did not tell Goodell that they need to stop kneeling. He was saying that he just told them, figure out a way to take care of the situation. Do what you need to do. Talk with the players, whatever. Figure out what needs to be done and do it, because we're losing money. And I think that's very believable. And who cares if he even mentioned that they should stop kneeling? That doesn't mean it's a race issue, right? A lot of people didn't stop watching the NFL because they were black players. They've been black players there for a long time. A lot of people didn't like the message of kneeling for the flag, no matter the color of the player. So even if he did say that he wanted them to stop kneeling, I still don't see that racist at all. Now, of course, some people will disagree with my assessment of that, and that's understandable. Now, so that was a big deal, and the way that he put it in his interview with H3 was that was probably a bit of a catalyst for them to start pushing the race question. Are you a racist? Are you a racist? He said they kind of started pushing that in a couple meetings. Now, to the N-word controversy, he said that after one or two of these situations, I believe, that he was on a call and they were talking about, racial sensitivity or whatever. And he said that he did use the N-word, but he was using it to say that he never uses that word like Colonel Sanders. I guess he said that Colonel Sanders, he used the word, but he was describing how he used the word to say, I don't use the word blah, 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 like this person does. And now, I know some people are going to be like, ooh, well, you can't even say the word. Listen, I'm a free speech guy. I definitely believe people can say the word. Now, that doesn't mean you should run around saying the word. I actually think that it's ridiculous that it is so sensitive. I understand why to a degree. I also think that the sensitivity of it is overhyped to some extent. And when somebody is saying, look, I don't use the N-word like this person does, and they say the word, that is not an indictment of that person. It's really not. I'm sorry. I know people are going to say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. He's a racist. He's a racist. And no, he's not. Just because he says, this person says this word, right? He said he used it in the meeting to contrast himself. And he said that he says that he is 100% fine with the tape coming to light because it makes him look good. He said he didn't hear the tape, but he made the comment that when the tape controversy of him on the call came out, he made the statement that he was very confused that anything was going down because he didn't feel like he did anything wrong to begin with. So, he felt very secure in himself. But the board didn't defend him at all because they wanted him gone. And once again, like I said, I totally believe that, right? I mean, if you know anything about history and power politics and the way things like that work, look, I didn't work a long time in the corporate world, but I worked for a year in the corporate world. And what I saw was people trying to take people out at mid-level positions. I saw some nasty shit going on at the mid-level, at project manager position. People trying to get project managers taken out and shit because they don't like them, right? And so it's like, look, dude, if you don't like somebody, you're going to do some shit to get rid of them. And I think this is one of them. I think that watching that interview with Papa John on the H3 podcast, I think it's not going to exonerate him from saying the word because he said the word. He said the N-word, but he did not use it in the way that people are trying to pretend he did. He used it in a way of saying, look, this is not something that I engage in. I don't use this word. And that's okay in my opinion. Now, if he was on tape calling somebody that, then yes, that would be a problem. But for him to not even be able to utter the word in basic contrast to what he believes other people do, I think is absurd. It's an absurd standard that we're holding. So anyway, I think that's all I got to say about that situation. Now, I'll go ahead and update you on what is happening. What do I think about some things here? So I had a situation where I came back from Taiwan, and I didn't want to come back from Taiwan, but I thought it would be the best considering my exposure to potential issues in Taiwan, Taipei, if the coronavirus situation got out of hand. I still stand by that because I think what's going on in China is freaky. I think it's a freaky situation. That being said, I came back and I was disappointed. Then, as you know, there's a tournament, a kickboxing tournament going on this weekend, Kansas City. And I told I kind of had some fire ready to go. So last year I didn't do a lot of Taekwondo or anything like that towards the end of the year because honestly I felt a little burnt out. I was recovering from some injuries. I just didn't really feel that into it. And that's perfectly understandable. I mean, I've been doing this shit for 20 years. I've been in high level competition for the last few years. So, yes, I was a little bit burnt out. No issues with that. But after, taking about 3 months off and not doing any Taekwondo and being in Taiwan and feeling like I couldn't really do Taekwondo or kickboxing or practice it if I wanted, it became more difficult to practice. And even if I didn't want to do tournaments, it was just, to go to a school was not convenient. And so I started feeling a little antsy, but not a big deal. So anyway, when I came back from Taipei, I'm like, hey, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong. I am ready to go ahead and do some stuff. And there was a cool Wako, W-A-K-O tournament that's going on. And I've wanted to do one for a while. So I decided to go ahead and sign up. And I started training. And then I rolled my ankle pretty bad. Like very similar to what I did last year. Last year, I had two significant ankle injuries, one on each ankle, both 2 weeks before tournament. This time, I did something similar again. So I once again messed up my left ankle doing some light stuff, and it's because after doing some research, basically, once you have a severe ankle once you get a severe ankle injury, it becomes very easy for your ligaments to get re-injured because they're not quite, because when you injure your ligaments in your ankle like that, like I did, they're likely not going to be as strong as they were before. So that means that you got to be careful when you're training. So I didn't, I felt good. I felt strong. Didn't realize it. Made a quick move and busted my ankle again. This time it's a lot better. A lot better. It's not as bad as before, but it's still not great. It's still not very good. But I remember thinking after that happened, I just laid down on my back for a minute after I injured it, and I was laughing to myself like, wow, what a challenge. I go to Taipei to explore these new horizons, explore this new potential. Then the virus hits China, and I decide that it's best for me to get out of the area for a while. Come back to the States, get ready for training for some tournaments. Boom, injure my ankle. Well, that fucked up some shit too. So I'm like, damn. But now I'm still planning on going to the tournament, but wrapping up my ankle, especially because it's not as bad, even though it was still fairly severe at the time. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to just wrap up the ankle and see how the tournament goes. Now it looks like I'm getting hit with some strep throat. And I'm like, God damn, dude. I don't know if this is a sign or what, if I should not go or if this is just some challenges or what. But I'll tell you what, life is going to throw stuff at you and you just got to roll with it. After I rolled my ankle this second time, this on my left foot, I was upset because I really wanted to do this tournament. But at the same time, I'm like, well, shit. Got to keep on rolling. Got to keep on rolling. I'm also, had to find a new place to live. And so, my whole situation's been turned upside down from what I thought I would be doing at this time of the year. And it's okay. It's all right. Sometimes you just got to get through some nasty shit. And the thing is that my situation's not optimal. I had to spend some cash to get back here from Taipei. I had to ruin my plans to be in Taipei. I had to, I messed up my ankle, so my plans back here got fudged a little bit. And now it looks like I'm dealing with some strep throat issue right before the tournament. And it's like, man, why is this happening? Like, this isn't fun. This isn't cool. But at the same time, I realize, hey, I'm doing okay. I'm still fairly healthy. I'm still strong. I'm still got my wits about me for the most part. I'm okay. It's not the end of the world. So, people out there, when you're feeling beat down, everybody's got different thresholds for different things. Some people have a high threshold, I've found, for financial issues. Some people have a low threshold for financial issues. Some people have a high threshold for physical issues, physical health problems. Some people have a lower one. Some have different thresholds for just circumstances, right? Such as, I planned on doing this, but my plan was messed up. And depending on your level of, your thresholds on different issues, it can be hard sometimes to deal with setbacks and problems. But when you do get them, one thing I'm trying to get in my head is the fact that a lot of this shit's temporary. First off, life is temporary, right? We ain't going to be here forever. And sometimes not even that long. And a lot of times issues are temporary. You'd be surprised